We're live.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to Ridge Runners Live. We are here on episode 20 with your usual host, the better host, John Dolovacki, down there, and me, Cam Wrench, still filling in here for Wesley Harton. Our guest tonight, Ryan Moran. If you don't know, he and Jeff Henderson, who couldn't be with us tonight, are the creators of the Rocks and Roots Trail at Alum Creek State Park, just north of Columbus. He's an ultra runner. He's a really great guy in the community there for Columbus area trail and ultra runners. And we're so stoked to have him on to talk with us tonight. If you've ever ran out there or you're interested in trail building or starting a race series or anything like that, you're going to want to tune in and listen to what this guy has to say. But before we get too deep into our conversation, I want to remind everybody, whether this is your first time watching our live show or you've been here for just every one, introduce yourself in the chat, subscribe to the channel, and let us know any questions that you have for Ryan tonight. And so our first question, like usual, that we're going to start with is, what is everybody drinking tonight?
We start with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can start with you.
All right. Well, right now actually I just got done running a little bit ago, so I'm having a Mio Fit Water.
Okay.
But I think later I'm gonna, because John's here, I'm gonna do a Jackie O's Under the Cloud, the limited release.
Nice.
So yeah, for you, buddy.
I do
Very
enjoy my
fitting.
Jackie O's.
I know.
I am drinking currently summer shandy because kind of gloomy today, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna drink a summer shandy, make it feel a little bit nicer.
Right, because when you drink a summer shandy, it's automatically 4 o'clock and 94 degrees.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I have got a Revolution Brewing Fist City Chicago Pale Ale. Unlike my first week here guest hosting, actually local. So yeah, gonna celebrate with some Chicago stuff till my lease ends on the 31st, and I probably move back to Ohio. So
Chicago is probably my favorite city, so that's all right.
if I had to live in a mega city, it would be this one,
Right?
But
Telling
every parking space in Columbus has about 6 more inches on either side, I want to say, and I really miss that.
Nice.
Gonna buy a smaller car.
That is also on the list of things to do.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm still driving a 96 4Runner, so.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so to kind of kick things off tonight, let's start with the beginning. How did the idea for the Rocks and Roots Trail come up, Ryan? And then when did you decide that this was going to be something that you actually went for and you created it, and not just, something you would talk about having beers after a run?
Yeah. It started, I guess, about 10 years ago now. And it kind of seems crazy to say that, but my buddy Jeff Henderson, he did a race over in Ohio, and after the race was done, he basically said we need to do something like this in Columbus, and not having a lot of options as far as a single track trail in the city itself, we reached out to the mountain bikers at Combo over at Alum Creek, and they said, sure, you can have your race here. So we did. And after that race, it was pretty obvious that we needed to build our own trail. And so that's kind of where it started. We, thanks to some of our friends over there at Combo, we reached out to ODNR. We sat down, had a meeting, and that meeting lasted about an hour, and actually probably a lot less than that. But and they were very gracious, and they said, yeah, here's 500 acres on the west side of Alum Creek. Let us know what you want to do. So over the next probably a month or so, Jeff and I went out there probably 2 or 3 times a week, took some blazes out with us, and just started flagging the trail. He walked the north loop, I went the south loop, and we just started flagging trees where we followed natural game trails. And then we went along the shoreline to try and take in what's probably the best part about Alum Creek, and that's the lake view. And so after about a month, we did that. We told them we were done marking the trail, and they said, okay, we'll have our group go back out there and basically follow what you did, and we'll let you know. And so I think it had to be about 4 months, 6 months. We had no word. So I remember telling Jeff, I think this thing is dead. I don't think it's, I mean, there's no way we couldn't hear something from somebody now. But then all of a sudden they just gave a green light and said, start building. And that's what we did. So, reached out to, well, obviously Jeff is general manager at Fleet Feet, which completely was a game changer having that relationship, because there's no way we could have had the amount of people responding to what we were doing immediately because of their interaction with the community already. And then we also, they actually helped us secure some of the tools that we needed to start building on the trail. And so we basically had a kickoff party and had like 100 people out there. We had shoe vendors, so like Saucony came out, New Balance was out there, Innovate. They all came out. We did a trail demo with shoes and just kind of tooled around for a little bit, and then it kind of dulled down, and that was our kind of our ribbon cutting party. And then we went in and just started building. There was probably, I don't know, maybe a dozen of us to start, and went off in two separate groups and just started clearing a section of trail. And I remember after it had to be like 2-3 hours out there, just, it was hot, just, clearing trail. And in my head, I was convinced that we had done just under a mile. And I remember setting my watch and tracking it back, and we did like 1/10 of a mile, and it was awful. And I thought, man, this is going to be a lot longer process than what I originally had anticipated. But I think it was after that first time, you kind of learn how to do it a little quicker, maybe not make it so wide. Maybe it doesn't have to be so perfect. We were in the beginning, we were pulling out every single route. And so we started to realize, okay, well, that's not necessary. There can be some toe grabbers. There's going to be times where this trail can narrow itself down a little bit. And so we started leaving some of those things in there, and it started to move a little bit quicker after that. But yeah, that's how it started.
I thank you for leaving those toe grabbers in there. My very first run on a single track trail was at Alum Creek, and I didn't know the full loop yet. I had been told by somebody at Front Runner there on Main Avenue to go out if I was interested in trail running, to go there, and I fell down no less than like 3 times in like a 4-mile run.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty fruity area. Definitely gets you.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a saying. It says, there are those who have fallen on the trail, and there are those who it's their first time on the trail. So those are the 2 types of trail runners. So
nice. So this whole process, like, I'm gonna go back a little bit to the whole process of designing the trail and then actually building it. So that still fascinates me. Like, I guess I don't really have a really good understanding of what it takes to maybe clear a section or to even follow game trails around. Like, I know you guys, I've run both of those loops, and the Lakeview parts are very good. It's really nice when you're like in the dark and all of a sudden you come up and you're just like, boom, and you're like, oh, it's open, it's nice, and it's like this real big cool area. And then you whip back around and go back up the trail. But like how does that process like actually work? I guess you're just like, yeah, we just cleared it, and I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of it came when we first marked it, and it's a little trial and error. When you go out there and you mark it, and when we did it, it was in the fall. I want to say maybe even summer, late summer, early fall, when we marked the trail. And actually, you know what? I'm going to say it was even in April. It wasn't summer. It wasn't super hot. But I do remember that a lot of the sections that we had marked originally, when we went back out building it, it was flooded. And so it was like, well, this isn't good, because here we have this section where I can see the blazes that I placed, but now there's 3 feet of water that we would have to run through. So, I mean, literally you could deviate a little bit from that and go higher ground. And so that's kind of where the trail kind of took shape, is learning a little bit as far as how the water from the lake would rise and fall, and then building around that. And then you more just are looking to connect points. And so for us, again, being new to this and not having a lot of experience with how to do it, we knew you wanted to stay along the lakeside, and that was a great map. it was pretty much built for us, and we just stayed along the ridge line. And on the other side, and you know this, John, you've run it, and Cam, you have too. I mean, there's the ODNR has built a section that was kind of a connector trail. So that big grassy path that we run is essentially a connector trail that was built by ODNR. So that is about a mile that was already built. And then the point was at that the trick from there was to connect to the existing lake trails built over on the other side near the ranger station. And so there was one particular section that there was actually a pretty nice little hill that was carved out, and we were connected with the Boy Scouts. There was somebody that worked for the Boy Scouts, and they wanted to get a badge for building a bridge. So I said, sure. They came out, they built a bridge for us, and that's actually still there. But do you remember where the railroad ties are when you're going up that hill?
Yeah.
And so it's after the first mile, you cross over that bridge, and then there's big, huge railroad ties.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks because they're so far spaced out, and it's a killer as far as trying to get up those railroad ties. And that is the section that they, took the liberty of just adding some stairs, And so, I mean, thank you, but this hurts my body when I run it. So
crazy. Your guys' trails also like no leave trace or no like not what's it called?
leave no trace.
Leave no trace.
Leave no trace.
So
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, when if someone stopped maintaining it, it would just evolve back into woods. Gone.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it would. I mean, it's kind of it's nice, but then it's also scary at the same time. Where if during a pandemic we get kind of lazy and don't go out there and clear trail as much as we should, and you get a couple storms blowing through, and then you get some major trees that fall, and I went out there last week, and there are probably 3 or 4 very large trees that are going to need to be cleared, and obviously there's a ton of overgrowth that's going to need to be cleared. So there's going to be work, but honestly, it's probably 3 or 4 or 5 times a year we need to get out there and kind of buckle down and just take a long day and get her done, and it's done. So,
yeah.
But that's kind of the nice part about trail maintenance. A little secret is the more people that run it, the less trail work you have to do. So the more people that we have out there that are going to be putting feet on the ground are going to, they're going to be taking the thorns with them as opposed to leaving them overgrowing on the trail. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah. They also make all those ankle rollers in the wintertime.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is always a good and exciting piece. I call that you have to have rubber ankles to maintain a good pace out at Rocks and Roots Trail.
You will have rubber ankles either now or later. Eventually, they're going to turn to rubber.
Awesome. So the
trick is you want to stay on top of the rollers. You got to try and stay on the top.
He's gotta. Well, it's kind of easier said than done during the evening when it's dark.
Yeah.
But definitely a fun course. How long did it take you guys to actually build? So once you started building, you said you guys had that first 100-person group come out. Like, did you have consistency in terms of large numbers, or did it just went down to just 8 of you who did most of the work?
As far as the 100 people that came out, I don't know that everybody stuck around. That was more of just a ribbon cutting celebration kind of thing. So I really feel like it was about a dozen of us that actually went out on the trail that day.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point on, whenever we have a trail day, it varies from anywhere between, there's times where it's just Jeff and I out there with, a trail blaster, which is basically just a heavy duty weed whacker and a rake. And so there are times where it's just that. But then there are also times, and this is probably the majority, where there's 8 to 10, even 15 people that come out, and we can break into 2 or 3 groups and cover a lot more ground. So, you never really want more than 3 or 4 people in a group. If you have more than that, it's kind of just a lot of people and getting in the way. So I would say having groups of 3 or 4 and then sending them a different section of the trail is probably what makes the most sense for us because it is so narrow. I mean, that single track is kind of, it's kind of hard to navigate with a lot of people. So
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we got our first couple of questions in the chat. They're both from Darren Herman, who we all know from those group runs out there.
I see you smiling, so I can't wait to see where this is going.
Yeah. Well, the first one he wants to know is your beard real?
Yes, it is real. Believe it or not, I started growing this during the pandemic, so it's actually about 2 months old. That's not true. Although Darren's beard is looking a lot more bushy than mine is these days.
Mhm.
But yes, it is real, and it is real red. So yeah, I am a ginger.
Yep.
I know John can appreciate that.
Yes, I can.
Mhm. Yeah, as the only one without a red beard in the show tonight, I feel a little bit left out. But then he also asked, when you're talking about clearing trees and trail maintenance, everything there, was that you're clearing out those trees tomorrow, right?
Apparently, Darren would like to run there tomorrow night. So I think that's where he's going with it.
Mhm.
No, those are not going to be cleared out tomorrow. We need to probably get shirtless Drew out there, who's got the giant chainsaw to cut those bad boys down. They're probably about 2 foot wide. There's some big trees, maybe even 3, that need to be cleared. But they're, the deer have done a nice job of navigating around it, so we just follow their lead.
So is there any plans to expand any more trails? Has there been discussions about that, or is that not something you guys want to dive into quite yet?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's again, I mean, you can kind of see how long it takes to do that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, that would obviously be the goal someday. And I think we pretty much have the plan. It's just executing. As of right now, if you don't know, when you go to the south end of the trail and when you cross over the road, does that make sense? If you get
Yeah.
to the southernmost part of the trail and you cross over that road, at that point, there is a connector trail that goes all the way down to the beach.
Hmm.
And so you could essentially run along the beach, and then there's another connector trail that goes up to the dam. So you run all the way across the dam, all the way to Africa Road. If you run up Africa Road back north, then you can have access to the multi-purpose trail, which is near the disc golf course,
Okay.
right over there by Plum Road. You also have the mountain bike course across the street. If you keep going north from there, you could run along there. I mean, there's a side of the road kind of stuff that you'd have to do, but you could get all the way up to the bridle trail, and there's a ton of bridle trail on the north end. And the trick is trying to tie that bridle trail back into the ranger station. And Jeff and I've talked about it, and I think we know how to do it. It's just, actually executing. So
Because that would be practically a full loop then, right?
that'd be a very, very, very full loop. Yeah.
How long is that loop?
The entire lake, right?
Yeah, it's huge. So essentially, I want to say there's I don't know the exact number. There's got to be 18 to 20 some miles of bridle trail up there. And then if you include the multi-purpose and then the distance it would take to go over there, to give you an idea, I've run the south loop and then connected to the dam, run over, done the multi-purpose, and then went up to Plum, over and down, and run the north loop. And I want to say that was 22 to 24. So I think if you throw in the bridle, we could probably do a 50 miler pretty
Yeah,
easily.
I'd say
Single
so.
loop 50 miler.
That'd be awesome.
Right?
Yeah, because I think that would be an interesting mix of trail because you have some very technical, potentially muddy, potentially frozen, depending on what's going
Right.
on. Your creek crossings as well, where you do get wet, absolutely. And then the multi-purpose trail and stuff like that, and the bridle trail, which is gonna have different. They're all gonna have different like footings and different characteristics. So I think that would be really interesting, and some road to get around. So
Exactly.
that'd be interesting.
It'd be a very challenging race. Obviously, I mean, I think there's not a ton of elevation out there, but what gets you is the constant up and down. I mean, it's just there's never a straight, wide open path to kind of catch a groove. So that's kind of why we built it the way that we did. Is we knew that we weren't going to have the steep climbs, but I think the goal was to have the constant motion. So you want to constantly be weaving back and forth, and then also up and down. So that was kind of the thought behind it. And then connecting across I mean, if you've run on the multi-purpose trail, it's much wider, but it also gets a lot of mud, and so and then connecting up to the bridle, it's really rutted because of the horses, obviously. But that trail itself it's beautiful. I mean, it's really pretty to run up there. Especially the north end of the lake is gorgeous if you've never seen it, because all of a sudden there's these beams on the side, and it's a real narrow lake, but it just carves out of the earth, and it looks really pretty. So I mean, there's a lot of really nice nature to be seen up there. So yeah, we'd love to.
It'd be awesome. I'll be looking forward to 50 miler in the future. I'll come run that one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it tomorrow after I clear the trees.
of course, it'll only take a few hours.
Well, it is just a one-day job for
Sure. Right.
a man with as stout of a beard as you have.
All right. Just needed me and an axe. So
yeah. I assume that you've got like some flannel shirts with like the sleeves cut off because it's the summertime.
Of course, I do, and a large blue ox. So I'm all set.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so talking about trail building and trail maintenance here, and you can tell we're being a little bit sarcastic with some of the things that we say, but there was an article in an outdoor magazine that it's going to remain unnamed, who has some trouble paying a lot of their freelance writers a while back, about how trail runners don't do enough trail work, especially for the amount of trail that they use. So Ryan, as someone who's obviously actually done a ton of trail work and already talked about like some of the challenges about it, what do you sort of like think about statements like that?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, I can see in the heat of a moment somebody being frustrated, but I would certainly never say that. Just mainly because I think people undervalue how important it is just to run the trail. Now, there is a lot of work that goes into maintaining a trail, but to make more of it than what it is, I think that would be irresponsible as well. Because we can knock out, and again, all trails are different, so to kind of lump them all together. But the reason I would never say that is because I think we can get a significant amount of work done with a dozen people, and 3 or 4 or 5 times a year, and so we can pull off a great deal with just that, as long as you continue to have a steady stream of people running on the trail. And that's the important thing. If you continue to have as foot traffic, then you can maintain a trail for a long period of time, just as it is. And so, because there was nobody up there building trails before we went up there, and there was a clear trail that we navigated through and around. Now, again, we deviated from that, but you can see game trails. They exist. And that's just from animals traveling on those trails. And so there's a lot that can be done just by people coming up and actually experiencing the trail, hiking the trail, bird watching on the trail, taking your family up there to hike the trail. It doesn't have to just be running, just spreading the word to people and letting them know to come up, experience the trail, and have fun on it. That can make a huge difference. But I do joke sometimes that if you want to complain about the trail conditions and you don't come up and work, you kind of lose that right. So, and that's not true. You can complain all you want, just whether I take you seriously or not.
Yeah. And there's certainly productive complaining and non-productive complaining.
That is true. That is true. I've heard both.
As someone in academia right now, and I'm sure people who have opinions about academia, we do a lot of very non-productive complaining.
I'm sure.
So, yeah. But Darren Herman has been very active in the chat. If anybody else is listening, give him some company there. He's been asking a lot of questions. We're going to get a lot of him on this show. But he wants to know, when we were talking about expanding the trails, he had some ideas, like to add another 6-mile loop, or to potentially connect it to high banks, which seems very difficult, just based on my knowledge of Columbus.
It's a challenge.
Have a shuttle bus.
I think it'd be easier just to build a brewery on the trail. I think that would probably be a more simpler solution than getting closer to high banks.
That was another question of his. Was there any plans to open a bar at the trailhead? So
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe be a touch limited on parking if you're at the Rocks and Roots trailhead, but for the people with those homes right there nearby,
walking
talk
distance.
about lucking out.
Yeah, I have family that live over there, so it's not. I'm sure they'd be down, especially this one in particular individual. So,
but yeah, moving on from that. So when I first started trail running, I already talked a little bit about it. Rocks and Roots was like the very first trail that I ever ran on. It was one of the first places that I found because it was really close to Columbus. I was an Ohio State student at the time. And it was accessible and easy drive. And then the group runs there were very low key and inclusive. Like I showed up and that's where I met Darren. That's where I met you. And people were, just like cracking jokes. I just kind of got out of the car and they were like, "Oh, are you here for the run?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." They're like, "Okay, cool."
Legally, we have to ask, just in case you're there to hawk some wares or sell drugs. I don't know. So
yeah, but so my question there is: was this a part of your goal when building the trail, to make a trail and ultra running community more accessible, sort of like generally, or did people like living in Columbus specifically?
I think that, and most people don't know this, but we actually started doing group runs before we ever did a trail race or ever did a trail building or anything like that. We started doing group runs at high banks, and that was the goal, was to just, as is most goals, is just to get people out, get active, and have fun in a group setting. But when we started moving to the trail, it really became much more mission focused in the way of growing the sport of trail running, growing the knowledge of the trail running community, and just watching relationships kind of build and friendships grow. And that's kind of been the goal. And it's excelled far beyond my dreams, just because, you've been to, I don't know if you've been to a race or not, but just if you come out to a Rocks and Roots race, and there are some of those people that only come out once or twice a year, and this is that once or twice a year. But when you've got 400 people on that trail, and they're all laughing, we're joking, and it's just like, it's a big reunion is what it feels like at times. And I've seen, people come down from Northern Ohio to run the trail that were like, wow, we had no idea how inclusive this community was, because people just, they'll ask you who you are, where you're from. They just, it's so welcoming. It's so warm. It's just, it's fun. And that's, the Thursday nights are just a microscopic view of a larger community that all kind of embraces each other the same way.
Yeah, no, when I moved up to Columbus, it was interesting because I was like up there and I'm like, I was like, I want to get a group run. I was trying to find something and I just Googled it. And I think between Facebook and Google, like the first one that popped up was like Rocks and Roots, and I think a couple other ones, but I was like, I don't want to run on pavement. Like, I'm not trying to run bike path for 20 miles, come back. Like, I don't. No, I was like, I'm gonna find some trails around here, and like, everyone kept on saying Allen Creek was the only place to go. Really, in Columbus, it's anywhere near a close drive. If you go, you can get outside the city and get some more trails, but like,
sure,
not gonna get that single track feel, especially like the Athens feel I was looking for that I missed. And then I came up with the first run, and I think Gabe was there and his fiance,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
they're like, "You running?" Like, yeah, okay. Well, and then like everyone started piling up because I was like, I just was in my car like waiting. I'm like, I don't see nobody else here. There's no one coming to this rate. So then everyone just piled up in the last couple of minutes. But like from day one, like I never felt like I was pressured. Like it was it was nice. People were very friendly. I didn't have to talk if I didn't want to talk. People would ask me questions here and there. Everyone made sure I was knew where I was going. Everyone
Hmm.
made sure I wasn't lost and like I was with the group. Like no one, you didn't get left behind,
Hmm.
which is what I think is one of the best parts about it. I've run plenty of other group runs before where people just take off and they run
Yeah.
8 minute miles and they're gone, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. And like then you're by yourself. Like I went to a group run to run by myself, which is wonderful. So
Yeah, and I think sometimes that happens, and you can't always avoid that. But I will say, I think starting trail crew um, with Fleet Feet, I think made a big difference in that, just because it helped um, everybody kind of adopt that uh, mentality that if someone is new here, we automatically kind of assume that they don't know the trail. We also automatically assume that it's kind of new to them, and it may not be. But I think going into it with that mentality of, okay, let's start with, have you run this trail before? Um, it's when you start small and people can surprise you. That's a lot easier than we take off. You know the trail? Yeah, I've ran here once before. Okay, great. And then we'll see you in an hour. So, I mean,
yeah,
it's much less welcoming. So when you go through and you actually take time to kind of lay the groundwork in the 5-10 minutes before we run, it makes a big difference. But a lot of the people that have been the veterans, I guess, that have been there for a long time, they automatically have that mentality. That's guys like Darren, who's a smart aleck, and I'm sure I'm going to comment here in 2 seconds, but he's great at it. He's really good at welcoming people, asking them, you know, and if somebody needs to fall back, or they're concerned about tripping or slowing down or holding back the group, I mean, any one of us will volunteer to drop back and run with them, just to make sure it's not an inconvenience, because we're not out here trying to set a land speed or an FKT on the Rocks and Roots Trail. We're out here trying to have fun, make
right.
a joke,
Mhm.
usually about poop or pee, and then we move on. So
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just, yeah, it was a good time, and I wish I was able to run more often up in there, and maybe with me still working in Columbus, I'll hopefully maybe get a Thursday night and I'm over and join the group run once they're full swing. I don't know what you guys
yeah,
are doing up there for that, but I think one of the things I find was really interesting is one of the ways that you and I think some of the other veterans manage the speed. Like when you guys take off and start the run, like you don't let it get out of hand. Like you don't pick up the pace really at the end, and you stop. We stop what 3 times or 2 times
hmm
at major
yeah,
intersections and wait for everyone to catch
yep,
up. You have a head count of total number of people who are supposed to be out with us. So you're like, okay, who didn't
yep,
come back? Where they at? Go find them.
yep, yep.
It's that extra care and step to be like, okay, who's all here? All right, we're
Well,
missing
and
somebody.
and also probably just as important as the follow up to that is, there are times where we stop at a section, because I mean there's some pretty heavy turns, to where you could make a wrong turn, and next thing you know, you're either headed back where you just came from, or you're going to be sitting there doing a circle all night. And so there have been individuals that take the liberty because they know the trail, but obviously we didn't know that, and they've just turned around and gone back. And so we get halfway through the run, and we have no idea where that person is. And what happens a lot of times is, I'll say, okay, hey, Darren, you know where you're going. Can you lead the group the rest of the way? I'm going to run back and
Mhm.
sweep in the opposite direction to make sure that we didn't lose anybody. And there are times where I'll go out there, and it's a 6 mile run,
Mhm.
and 9 miles later, I find out that somebody just decided to turn around and go home. And so I make sure I reach out to that person, and just let them know, hey, it's cool. Just do me a favor, let somebody know in front of you. Just scream, hey, I'm going to go back. and just it works both ways. Um, but yeah, it is kind of the goal, is to make sure nobody gets lost out there, make sure everybody has a good time. And if you didn't have a good time, why not? And how can we make it better?
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really well put. And I just want to comment that, don't take any of that as like bluster coming from Ryan, because when I first started at these group runs, I mean, I remember one time Darren specifically stopped for me because I tripped and fell. And he was like, "Hey, you're all right," and like everybody else kind of like lingered a little bit, and he
Yeah.
checked in, and I have had those moments where I've been like, "Oh, I'm not having a good day," or when I was still newer to trail running, right, where I'm like, you know what, I do need to turn around, right, or I need somebody to hang back with me so I don't miss a turn.
Yeah.
And then later on, it got to the point where it was like I was the one who would tell other people where the turns were,
Yep.
you know, I would go back and check, and look for somebody.
Mhm.
Um, and that was like really great, it's sort of like whoever has it on that day, is going to help out everyone else. And if you don't, there's going to be somebody who's going to look out for you, whether or not you're just having an off day or you're really new to this. So,
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
mhm. But yeah, so you mentioned the races that y'all put on there before. I've ran only one. I've volunteered at a couple of others. Which, by the way, if you're in the Columbus area and you want to know more about trail running, when we start having races again because of COVID-19, go and volunteer at one of these races, and you can learn a lot about like what the scene is like, what the people are like, um, and get to know the area a little bit better before committing to saying, "Oh, I'm going to run a half marathon here," or "I'm going to run the 20K or the 30K or even one of the ultras there." But with that series of races, do you have any plans to expand the series right now, add more races, create like a season of all the races? Because you've got some pretty much every couple of months now.
Yeah. I think we like the family of races that we've kind of have settled in. So the obviously our big race is the winter series. So that, January, February race is a big one for us. And then we've had races in the spring, and they're brutal. So we've kind of gone away from the spring races. There's just so much mud, and it becomes difficult. So we've kind of shifted a little bit into July, late June, early July now with the Firefly, and then that rolls into August with the Hoot, which is my personal favorite. And then we do have the Summer Squatch to kind of round out, or actually the Autumn Squatch now. Sorry. So we did kind of push that back into autumn. So that's in November. So yeah, which was the Hoot just got canceled. So that's our August race, and a lot of it has to do with just not being able to um, know whether we're going to get approval to do the race up there. Right now, they at least as of a week ago, they weren't issuing any special permits for activities up there, and so um, it makes it tough to plan. And so I think there's potential that we still have a race this year. What that looks like, I don't know yet how it could look. Um, but obviously the hope is we can be back up and running in the wintertime, um, and start having races again. But no, there's really no vision of expanding. Going back to your question, um, but maybe doing a series tally might be something that we've kind of kicked around a little bit, where it's like you sign up for a certain number of these races, and there's an overall kind of a placement.
Mhm.
Like you can keep a running tally of everybody that does the races and the times and things like that. I think that'd be kind of fun, just to because there are people that come out and do every single race that we do, and so I think that'd be kind of fun to foster that kind of mentality.
Yeah. and I think I've been at every race but the Firefly in some capacity. So fingers crossed next summer, right? I'll either
Yeah,
be able to come out and
absolutely.
volunteer or
Yeah,
run. But
the
Darren,
Firefly was my brainchild, so that one was kind
okay,
of fun. And this year, I
yeah,
was so disappointed that we had to cancel it because
hmm
this year was going to be epic, guys. I mean, it was going to be a distance challenge. From it was an overnight distance challenge, so we weren't doing the 50K. What's if you want to do 50K, do 50K. If you want to do a 100K, do
hmm
100K. So the goal was to do as much as you could in 12 hours, and I think we all know somebody that could do a lot of miles in 12 hours. So that was going to be kind of fun to see those people do some pretty amazing things. So I was a little disappointed we didn't get to test that out this year, but next year.
yeah, next year. And so Darren Herman actually had a Firefly related question. Believe it or not, Darren Herman's got another question.
He wants
But
the moonshine.
yeah, well, he actually asked, will there be another reggae band at the next Firefly race? Or are you going to be exploring other genres of music?
Uh, yeah, of course. I mean, we're open to anything. I've got a bluegrass band on standby. We
Mhm.
might do some indie rock.
Okay.
I've got a guy that plays the cello. So I'm thinking that'd be pretty sweet to have a
hmm
good 6 hours of nothing but harps and no, I don't know, Darren.
That's that's a good idea. I have uh, never had a bad experience with aid station music, like, but it's always been from speakers. I don't know
Yeah.
how I would react to a live band. Um,
It was fun. I enjoyed it. And I think most people that were out there had a good time and they did a great job. The band was great.
mhm.
Um, I think it was just uh, they were so far away from the start and finish line. They were kind of off in the distance, and we needed to be better about moving them a little closer to the start. So I'll take that. I'll take that. I should have moved them closer.
Mhm.
Then we would have had people dancing,
Yeah.
Will
other
there?
than Darren.
Other than Darren. Talking about aid stations, we'll go to food a little bit. Will there be chili next year at the
At
Rocks
which
and Roots?
race?
At the Rocks and Roots
Rocks
series,
and
because
Roots?
I was told and the email said that there was gonna be chili, and I finished the race. I'm
Oh,
like, where's?
yeah. There was something there instead. What was it?
I don't remember. I ate a lot of grilled cheese,
Mhm.
and then one aid
There was
station
something.
had chicken broth or something, like ramen noodle or
Okay.
something, and I was like, give me that because it was cold. And I was like, that
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Sometimes. Yeah. Well, sometimes when you rely on volunteers, you kind of get surprised. That's like a Firefly. We didn't know we were going to have chili at Firefly, but we did have chili. Um, and so, and it was delicious, and it was vegan. So, but it was actually really really good. So I mean, aid stations when you have volunteers like that, sometimes you get surprised. But yeah, traditionally we do have chili at the Rocks and Roots race, and that is a I'll make a note of that there are people that come for the chili.
Be the only reason I come down there next year. Not seeing everybody that I know and not getting to chat with a
Yeah.
bunch of runners from Strava that I
Oh,
talk to. None of
Mhm.
that. No, it's the chili and only the chili.
you got
Mhm.
it. Make sure it
So
happens.
nice.
It. I'm trying to remember if I had that or if I just had a bunch of grilled cheese and I was in a fugue state after the one winter series race that I ran there because it was tough going for me that day. But
Yeah.
I think that's among the best chili that I've had in the outdoor setting covered in mud after running for about 6 or 7 hours. I forget what my time was.
It's tough to go wrong with a lot of food. I mean, honestly, when
Mm-hmm.
you run 6 or 7 hours and you're exhausted and freezing cold, anything warm,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to probably be a lot better than what it actually is in real life when you're sitting in your living room. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think it's amazing at the end of the run what you start eating.
yeah,
Like
it's never stuff you typically would eat, right?
no,
I mean,
and you're not supposed to, right? It says not to do
no,
that during a race, and
exactly,
you're like, I don't
right,
care. I've never had that before in a race. I want it.
exactly. I mean, I don't generally play chubby bunny with M and M's, but for some reason during a race, I find it completely acceptable to do that. So
Awesome.
Yeah. Um, so we've talked a little bit about like Columbus and the Columbus scene specifically tonight. Um, all of us here have lived in Columbus for at least some part of our lives. Ryan, where do you see Columbus as a sort of like fitting into like the greater like outdoors and ultra running scene in Ohio? I used to work at the REI in Dublin, and what it seemed like from people is that it was good and bad. So it was like really centrally located, which was good because you could get to a lot of places, but it was also bad because you were equally far from all those places. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So, what do you sort of think about that?
Well, I mean, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of options, and a lot of those options are 30, 40 minutes in either direction. So that's good that you have a lot of options. But I also get that too. I mean, there's nothing in your backyard necessarily, but um, I have to give props to um, the metro parks. I mean, our metro parks are legit. And if you've not been to High Banks, to Clear Creek, to Prairie Oaks, to I'm probably missing a dozen, but
Blendon,
Darby Creek.
yeah, Darby
yeah,
Creek,
Blendon Woods, Sharon
Blendon.
Woods.
I mean, exactly. There's a lot of really, really nice metro parks that have really good trails. And I've often told people it's a great first step. If you've ever
Mhm.
considered trail running and you're a road runner right now and you're like, boy, I'd really like to try trail, but I really don't feel like bleeding today. Okay, well, go go over to High Banks and check out the crushed
Mhm.
limestone. Just see how it feels on your body because it does feel different. And there are a lot of people that make that transition just because they've just been beaten up so bad on the road that they find um, it's a relief to their body, but then also it's a bit therapeutic to their mind to be out on the trail. And so I think Columbus has got a really good thing going. I think being centrally located does allow for the kayaking scene, the hiking scene. To if you want to drive an hour, you can be at Mohican or you can be at Hocking Hills. You can be over. So I guess it's still Baroque, but I mean it's still part of that Hocking area. And so Shawnee. I mean, there's a lot of really really cool places that you can travel to see, and then for your everyday here in your backyard, you still have a lot of really good options. And so I think Clear Creek is a hidden gem. I mean, if people need to visit Clear Creek and check it out if you've never been there before, it's beautiful. So,
Yeah, I would second that.
but yeah, I'm proud of Columbus. I love this town. I think it's got a really good thing going. It's got a really vibrant running community, and so it's continuing to get larger, and so that's what you want to see. And it's not like it's not a it's not a club mentality to where you feel like you're trying to wedge yourself into a group that you don't fit in with. I mean, the training groups in the area are gigantic. I mean, you can find a running club anywhere nearby you, and even like MIT, if you want to find a huge group, I mean, there's 800 people at a running group. There you go, blend in. I mean, it's possible. And they're walking around with signs as far as like your pace, and so I mean, there's lots of options for the running community here alone, but then also the trail community too. Is you start to find groups, find little niches, and come out run with us. And if you get plugged into Rocks and Roots on Facebook, and you can just put a message on there saying, so we do have an association page, and there's also a public page to where you can throw out there, hey, I'm going to run at Darby Creek tomorrow at 10. Is anybody interested? And I almost guarantee you'll find somebody. Now, as long as it's not like 95 degrees and 80% humidity, and even then you'll probably find some sucker. I'm sure Darren will be there running with you. So
Yeah, for sure. And that's really great. What you said about the community. Um, but 95 degrees and 80% humidity. If you're not running on those days, how much running are you really doing in the summer?
I know. Have you ever lived?
Yeah, it's like you're skipping a lot of days.
Yeah, yeah. If you're not halfway through your run questioning your decisions, you're just not running. So you're not doing it right. Yeah, you're not pausing to sit underneath a tree and wonder why your heart's in your throat and why did I stop sweating? Yeah, yeah.
Always good. Good sign. Means you're
Yeah.
getting fit.
Oh. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, they do say heat is the poor man's altitude.
That
So
is true.
we got
That is very
plenty of
true.
that to go around.
Yep.
Columbus might not have mountains, but we can get you some heat and humidity.
You can
Well,
go.
we've had friends that have left Columbus that have moved out to Colorado and have run the mountains in the altitude, and they get a lot faster. And then they show up in August and they do a group run. They're like, this sucks. Like, yeah, that humidity. I don't want to run the altitude either, but I got to take one or the other. So,
right. Yeah, just don't get both. So don't go to Carolina,
no.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Humid and some mountains.
Carolina, Tennessee. Oh man, it's brutal down there.
Gonna get yelled at by Eric Anderson here shortly if he's in the chat. So I'm gonna ask a couple. We've got some random questions I think lined up in some of here. I'm gonna steal one of Cam's, and I'm gonna ask, what is the weirdest thing that you as a race director or trail crew manager, person, leader, have you ever seen do at a race? Weirdest mid race hallucination or the weirdest just thing you've seen?
Oh man, I mean, weird. I've seen a lot of people going to the bathroom.
That's normal for trail runners.
That's normal, right?
It always comes back to that.
Doesn't it? I mean, it always does.
Yeah.
I've seen people find a pair of shorts on the trail and be like, hey, look, a pair of shorts. They pick them up and they're covered in crap. Like, well, I could have told you that, so put them down. Don't pick up stuff on the trail. Any kind of fabric, just leave it there. Now, I would say probably the craziest, weirdest story that I can think of is we were up the trail and it was a Thursday night group run, and we had just passed over a bridge on the North Loop, probably 3/4 of the way done, and I stepped on a hornet's nest, a ground hornet's nest, and I didn't know it. And so me and another guy, Drew, were in the front of the group, and all of a sudden we heard just a lot of swearing and screams from behind us, and encouragement to pick up the pace. So we picked up the pace and ended up on the road because the trail was a little bit shorter then. So we actually ended up on the road and ran back. And I said, what was going on? They said they were getting stung by hornets. And so I said, okay, well, we had some people that had their shirts off, and they literally had welts all over them. And they turned around, welts all over their back. One guy had like 27 hornet stings. I think there was like a dozen, maybe 15 people with us that night. And I think there was close to 200 bee stings or hornet stings on everybody. It was, I of course didn't get stung, but I was in the front. So, but there were, and so the guy that got the most stings, we started jogging back to our cars. And so I noticed he wasn't with us anymore, which kind of made me nervous because he just got stung by a lot of hornets. And so I started walking back, and I saw him. He was walking, and he kind of had his head down. And I said, "You okay?" He goes, "I don't know. I feel really bad. My heart rate, I can't get to slow down." I said, "Are you allergic to hornets?" He goes, "I don't think so." And I go, "Are you allergic to 30 hornets?" He said, "Maybe." So we walked the rest of the way back, and he's fine, thankfully. But that was pretty eventful.
Yeah, I am very happy that wasn't me. God, that would suck so bad.
That was brutal. Yeah, we can laugh about it now, but in the moment, it was obviously concerning. So.
Yeah.
Did you guys get some 6-minute mile there?
I think so. Yeah, my heart rate was up too, but for different reasons.
Like, run faster. Why? Run faster.
Yeah, you might think that it pays in like your ultra sign up rating to be at the front of the group.
Yeah, exactly.
These are the things you really need to be worried about.
Yeah, so if you kick up some hornets, everybody behind
Mhm.
you gets stung.
Yeah. So yeah, keeping with like our quicker questions here at the end. One that I always like to go to is if ultra running had walk-up songs like baseball, what would yours be?
Hmm. Um, oof. uh, I like a lot of music. I do like a probably uh, anything from like Linkin Park.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll go a little different direction. Let's go Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash, God's gonna cut you down.
Nice.
Solid
I just like
choice.
that. I love that beat.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Interesting choice. Like
Right?
just
Mhm.
like I guess most ultra runners are just mild walk up. It's not like we're walking into a ring or anything. But
No, I treat it like I'm
Mhm.
walking into a ring. I mean, honestly, think about it. I mean, you're stepping up to the line to tow an ultra marathon. Anything can cut you down. You have no idea. I mean, you can roll an ankle. You could have GI issues, um,
hornets.
hornets,
Hornets.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
You could get
I mean,
lost.
exactly.
Hmm.
There's so many things that can completely derail your race. But I think if you can grit through any kind of um, issue, you can make it through it. And so that's I think a life lesson, a trail lesson, whatever. I mean, it's going to happen. You can't avoid it. You can't run from it. No matter how fast you go, you can't escape adversity. You just can't.
It's
Yeah.
true.
It's all about how you respond.
Hmm.
Wise words from Mr. Ryan Moran of Columbus.
A man that's fallen a lot of times
Yeah.
and gotten lost a fair share too.
And gotten
Hmm.
back up
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
every
Hmm.
time.
Got to finish the race.
Yeah. That's that's one of the things that I told Wesley when he was on his Shawnee 100 was that he was stopped and he had cell phone service and he was texting in our group chat and I was like, well, we're not going to call the chopper for you.
Yeah,
You're
right.
going to have to finish because that's the only way you're getting back to your car.
Yeah, right. I'm not gonna carry you
Hmm.
as much as you may enjoy that. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So another one is, what is your favorite pair of running shoes ever? And what pair did you run in at your last race?
Oh, races. What are those? Uh,
Haven't done one in since November. So
I like I think my favorite trail running shoe
mhm.
was probably the Hoka Speed, or no, the Hoka Evo Mafate. That was a killer shoe. Second place would probably be the Terra Kiger from Nike. Road shoe. Uh, I'm running in the Vomero right now from Nike. I like that a lot. It's got a lot of pep to it. I'm feeling pretty good in that one. I'm on probably like 50 miles in, but I do enjoy that. Last race was a road race, and you call it a race. It was a virtual
Mhm.
month long thing,
Mhm.
total mileage over the course of a month. And I ran almost all of those miles in the um, New Balance Fresh Foam Vongo.
Okay.
Eh,
Yeah.
I was all right. Yeah.
All right. And so we've talked a lot about Alum Creek tonight, and I do contend if you're in the Columbus area, you should go visit, especially as short as the drive is. You can get out there before work if you're an early riser. You can get out there after work with the sun out as late as it is right now. But what is one state park, forest, or natural area in Ohio that you think everybody should visit?
Ooh. Oh man, there's a lot of those. I think I actually mentioned some of them already. Obviously,
Mhm.
my favorites probably Mohican. Um, I love Mohican State Park. There's a lot of really cool stuff to see up there. I'm a huge fan. Um, uh, I'd probably say like Caesar Creek. If you've never been to Caesar Creek over there near Springfield, that's really cool. Tar Hollow down in Hocking. I guess it's Hocking. Um, also, Scioto Trail State Park. I don't know if you guys have ever been there. Jeff and I went down there just to explore one time, and
Mhm.
it was really cool. And so if you could do the trail, or if you want to do some of the like the dirt roads, they have some looks like ATV kind of trails that you can kind of run on to get some serious elevation. So it's a cool park.
And so one of my favorite trail running memories, and the reason I'm going to tell you that if you're not convinced yet, you should for sure visit Alum Creek and go on one of these group runs, is a winter group run where there was a lot of really fresh snow on the ground, and there was really great footing, but it was a Thursday night and it was dark out and there was everybody out with our headlamps, and we got going around the lake and you could see all the stars shining above the lake, and then you could see everybody's headlamps just stretched out and then reflecting along the snow. And it is one of like the most beautiful images in my head. It was so much fun at the time, and truly something that I'm not a very good photographer. I'm an iPhone guy, right? But I don't think you could quite capture that experience and seeing that in a video or in an image. And I really do think you got to go out there and experience that one for yourself.
It's great. Yeah, the winter time, it's beautiful, especially if you get a fresh snow, and maybe if it is snowing when you're running, that's even like a icing on the cake. But yeah, the headlamps are pretty sweet. I remember I was out there doing camera work one time, just taking pictures, and we had 400 people out there on the trail. It was still a little bit dark, and there was still some snow on the ground. And as you looked along the ridge line on the lake, you could just see just a path of people. It's just like just lights and just people running on the trail. It's so cool to see. I mean, it was probably one of our first races up there when we were on that trail. It was just neat to see that many people enjoying something that we put so much effort into.
Nice. That must have felt pretty rewarding to see.
Very much so.
I'm sure there was definitely some blood and sweat put into that trail maintenance and creation. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Someone got bloody somewhere.
I've donated my fair share of blood to the trail.
Nice.
I'm cleared for a while.
So got a couple more questions in the chat that are pretty quick here. Alex Jackson wants to know black beans or oatmeal cream pies as your only fuel for an ultra.
Oh man, for an ultra, so we're not talking like I'm gonna have this meal at home and I'm trying to make a well-informed decision. I'm going oatmeal cream pies. I love black beans, no joke. One of my favorite things is a black bean and sweet potato ham, like a burger with black beans and sweet potatoes. It's killer. But in a race, I'm gonna need that quick burn, so I'm going oatmeal cream pie.
You're gonna win some points with Wesley there.
And a question from Leslie, actually, our sort of host in exile there, is what is your favorite Columbus beer? I hear there's no shortage of breweries in the city at this point.
Man, there's some new stuff that's coming out that's pretty legit. Obviously Noctera's got a good thing going over there. I think Olentangy River has some really good things going. There's one called, what's it called? Written in the Stars from North High that just came out. That's really surprising. Really, really good. I think if I had to, I'm probably going to go Beta Flash from Noctera.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have that. What is it?
It's a hazy New England IPA. I'll go Arrowhead at Olentangy River as a close second. That's a double IPA from Olentangy River. Yeah, right. But I'm gonna go. My number one's probably New England IPA Beta Flash from Noctera.
Nice. I'll have to try that out if I can find it around here. Or is it like only at the brewery?
No, they do can and distribute mainly on the north end. So I can't tell you exactly where to find it, but Discount Drug Mart up at Polaris. Also, I think they go to Giant Eagle, and they also have a cooler at the brewery. So stop in, try it, and then leave with a 6, I guess.
Cool. Well, do we have any other short questions here that you want to ask Cam before we wrap things up? We're just about over an hour here, so.
No, I'm kind of out of questions. I know you were going to take the outro.
Yeah. Darren did want to know what your favorite gel flavor was, but then he said, actually don't care.
So he said skip it. We got more pressing questions.
No, I'm going to answer it. No way.
Okay.
It's Cliff, the Cliff gel, the
Mhm.
vanilla flavor. It tastes like icing. I don't
Okay.
mess with any of that fruity stuff. It's either got to be vanilla or chocolate. It's got to taste like
Mhm.
icing.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
On that note,
Uh,
vanilla or chocolate, but vanilla.
Or chocolate. Yeah. A
But
Cliff shot, whatever it's called.
mhm.
So, yet again, we want to give you big thanks for joining us tonight, taking the time out of your evening to discuss all things trail and ultra with us. It was a good time. Where can people find you? Where can they follow your races? Where can they find you on Strava and Trail Crew and all that kind of good fun stuff?
Oh, well, let's see. So on Strava, Ryan Moran. I don't know. I don't know. You can find me on Strava, I guess, if you want. Uh, Instagram, I think it's at Trail Crew Guy.
Okay.
Um, and then Facebook, just look for the guy with the beard. Um, but yeah, I'm happy to make new friends.
Nice. And then Rocks
Yeah.
and Roots has its own page and stuff like that.
Yep, Rocks and Roots. Yeah, it's you can Google it, but I think we changed it within the past year. But Rocks
Mhm.
and Roots, RRTRA.org, I believe. RRTRA.org. Does that sound right?
I think so. As always, we'll always put those we'll put all those links, not her personal stuff. You can go find them if you want to, but we'll put
Mhm.
all of the Rocks and Roots and stuff like that down in the description below so you can easily find it.
Awesome.
Um, Before we sign off, I'll say thank you to Ridge Runner Nation for all the support we've received since we started this channel. You were incredible guests tonight. We can't wait to hear more about what you all are up to in the future, and can't wait to maybe come do some more races again. Since I think personally the Rocks and Roots February 50K was my last official race of before COVID-19 happened. So
Mhm.
and I got it done, so I was happy about that. So
Nice job.
thanks, and thanks for joining us, and everyone. We will see you next week.
See ya.